Hey guys, welcome to the Mow Show, a show all about mowing and gardening. First up tonight, we're going to have our local expert Des take you for a walk around the garden to help you identify all the different things that you need to be looking at to help maintain your garden and making sure that it looks absolutely fantastic all year round.
Good morning, my name's Des Warren, franchisor Jim's Mowing, Southeast Melbourne. Today I'd like to introduce you to a range of services that we commonly provide within our customers' gardens. What I'd like to do firstly is have a walk around. I want to demonstrate that how much work can be done in any garden. In fact, I think that any garden in Melbourne you walked into, there'd be work to be done at any time of year. And that's our challenge, to become knowledgeable of our customers' gardens so that we know what needs to be done and when it needs to be done. Our end game in this business is not just to mow lawns, but to become really valuable to your customer by becoming the manager of your customer's garden. And to do that, you've really got to understand what's in it and how to look after it. Let's go for a wander. An example, we'll just have a quick look around this garden. You can clearly see we need a mow here, which we'll do later today. Along here we've got some beautiful roses that my wife and I pruned up over winter. And they're now at the stage this time of year where they need a little bit of care. So they need some deadheading, which we'll do soon, and we also need a little bit of chemical treatment to make sure that they remain disease-free and insect damage-free. As we venture through here, we can see there's quite a bit of weed happening here. There's three ways we can weed gardens: mechanical, chemical, manual. Coming through here, we see there's a bit of trimming to be done here. This Westringia is way out of control and needs bringing back. Got a little bit of damage up on the top of that Japanese maple there, a bit of dieback, so that's something that we could attend to as well. Coming over this way here, we've got a hedge, a pittosporum hedge, which needs a trim up, top and side. Clearly that's a little bit out of control. Again, we've got some more weeds down here. We've got an azalea that's finished flowering and at this time of year needs a bit of a feed. Venturing down this way, folks. We have here is one of the many varieties of syzygiums. A close look at this and you'll see there's a lot of insect damage there. It's been chewed on, so something's having a really good good chew at that. So that needs some an insecticide to take care of that. So we'll take care of that later today. A closer look at this lawn here, and we'll see that we've also got some weeds coming through here. So this is a lawn in need of some herbicide treatment. At this time of year, middle of spring, it's also a great time of year to be fertilising our lawns.
Next up is a segment on hedges. Hedges are a fantastic thing to have in your garden. They provide great privacy, but they also look great when they're running around the backyard fence as well. So next up is John, who's going to take a look at using one of these things to show you how you can prune and have fantastic looking hedges in your garden.
Hi, I'm John Wiles from the Mow Show, and tonight we're going to show you some hedge care. So hedge care meaning looking after any sort of infestation of disease or bugs you've got in there, or general pruning to get some more improvement and get your hedges looking really magnificent. Okay, so when you have a look at this lily pilly, this is telling me something. So here, when you see leaves like that, it hasn't got spots, so it's not scale or anything, it's got chew marks in it. So there's something chewing that lily pilly. So it can either be there's a green lady beetle, which they call a lily pilly beetle, or it could be caterpillars. So you can have a look to see if you can find it, but that's going to continue on. What you can do is get a nice eco oil and mixture and just give it a spray and try and get rid of the caterpillar. I reckon it's a caterpillar chewing it because it's quite big. And then it's because it's eating all the new growth. See, the plant's looking a little stressed. So that's a good telltale. What's doing the plant when you see it like that? That's a chewing insect. So that you need to identify what the problem is to be able to treat the problem. So that a nice eco oil will just get rid of the bugs off of that, whatever it is, whether it's the beetle or a caterpillar. But as I say, I reckon it's a caterpillar from a good educated guess. with a hedge, what you want it to do is the more you cut it, the denser it'll get. So just nicking this new shoot off, it'll shoot down underneath. It'll start to fill up in density. So just a nice, keep just knocking the little tips off will give this a much better shape, a really nice, tight, topiary ball. This little box or Bux's hedge here, when you cut it, so you're aware, when you cut it, it has a tendency to bruise a little bit. So it actually looks quite nice because it's a beautiful coloured green. But it does need a prune because it'll get out of shape. Just in case the customer says to you what's wrong. So yeah, it's quite a delicate plant, so it will bruise. So yeah, we'll just give it a little shape, keep it in its shape a bit. You can see here where we've cut this one, you see it might be a bit flat here, but there's a little bit too much competition. They're a bit close together. We're all a bit guilty of that because we're trying to fill gardens. So again, you're just cutting to the shape of where it is as best you can. Closing about hedging. So you can see, remember, it's the shape of the plant and the way it's growing. The other really good tip, a couple of really good tips that I always follow is take your time, stand back and have a look, and cut it in small segments. Remember, you can always cut more off. You can't glue it back on. So if you make a mistake, if you haven't cut it hard enough, then you can cut a little bit more. So cut a little bit, stand back, have a look, come back, cut a little bit more. So you get it to the position you want, right? Don't just go woof, because then you can't fix it. And if you do make a little mistake where you've cut it a little bit out of shape, you can try and blend it back in as best you can, working. And again, blending it back in is being able to cut just tiny bits and taking your time. So just take your time, stand back and have a look, and yeah, you'll get a good finish.
Hey guys, today we thought we'd take a little bit of a look at whether we purchase a whippersnipper or whether we take a look at buying a dedicated edger machine, okay? So we thought we'd take a look at some of the pros and cons. Obviously with a whippersnipper, some of the names also for a whippersnipper could be a brush cutter, or if you are an American, you're going to call it a weed whacker, okay? In terms of the pros and cons, there's probably far more flexibility with a whippersnipper. It means that you can not only do an edge with a whippersnipper, but you can also do some slashing around, cleaning up under hedges and plants. So there's a few things that you can do. When we have an edger, it's a far more dedicated tool and your flexibility is minimum, okay? So really what you're doing there is just simply making that really nice sharp line of the edge. So this particular machine is going to do a fantastic straight edge. Mind you, this also with a really good operator will give you a fantastic edge as well. But if you are looking for that crisp, perfect professional edge, then the edger really does become the machine, okay? In terms of using and operating, there's a fair learning curve for both, okay? So trying to get that nice edge with the whippersnipper, it'll take you a little bit of time to do that. So you'll probably find you get some jagged edges. And the same here with the edger. Once you learn how to use it, it's going to be okay, but it does take some time to try and get it in the slot and get it going. When it comes to a little bit of the cons, we're talking a bit about replacement of either the blade or the cord itself. You will run through the cord fairly quickly. The trick with a whippersnipper is to make sure you keep your head up high. Remember this, you're actually only cutting the edge or the grass with about that much of the cord. The mistake most people make is they think they're cutting with the whole cord and therefore it snaps and breaks and you've now got to pull it apart and start again. In terms of the blade, again, we've got the blade here, so it just lines up inside the concrete edge and the lawn. And you'll have to replace the blade from time to time, but that'll probably last you far longer than probably the cord will as well, okay? So the only other point I'd probably make to point out is if you are using a whippersnipper, from a safety perspective. Now again, using any machine, you make sure you've got all your PPE on, like your boots, your gloves, your glasses, and your earmuffs. But again, especially from a whippersnipper, flicking around some rocks or flying objects certainly can hit people in the face or the eye. So be very, very careful using a snipper. You'll probably find not as bad using the edger, but again, make sure safety is paramount. Probably together, they make a fantastic team because if you had an edger, you could set up great edges and then maintain them with the whippersnipper. So there you go, guys. Your choice, which one to buy. In every garden shed, in every property, there's always that debate. Do I catch or do I mulch? Next up, our local expert John, he's going to take you through the pros and cons as to what's going to work best for you.
We're going to talk about the difference and the benefits of mulching as against catching. Mulching, that's a mulch plug for my little Honda push mower. Goes in, mulches, it throws the grass back around and it mulches it up, throws it back on into the grass, which adds to the organic layer in the soil. So good for the health of the lawn, put something back in. So catching picks up all the waste, all the grass neat and tidy. So it's just the $64 question that everyone asks, which is better? This way leaves a bit of a film, which I'll show you. This way cleans it up, makes it neat and tidy. This way no waste to take away. This one you've got some waste and maybe a cost to take away. So let's have a look at the benefits. And then really catching as against mulching is a business decision you will make or a customer decision you will make. So the other thing about mulching is when you're mulching, you'll find because it's trying to cut the grass, if the grass is a little bit long or a little bit wet, the blades start to labour a bit. So it's not cutting as well or it's as effective. It's fine if it's nice and dry. In the springtime when there's good moisture or it's rained or something, it's going to make the disc labour a little bit. So, and it's not going to spin fast enough and cut the grass, so you're not going to get a really good cut, in my opinion. So you just need to make that decision as to what you want to do. Okay. You can see with mulching how it's leaving that, it's mulching it up, but the grass is quite wet and long. It was nice and, but it's leaving this sort of film there. From a distance, that might look okay. Okay, now I'll show you the other way. So you can see here we've mulched and we've caught. You can see here with the mulching, it's left that film. You can see it down there. If grass is moist, that's going to happen all the time. It's a little bit of length and a little bit of thickness to it. Sometimes it's not about the length of the grass, it's about the thickness and the strength of the grass you're cutting. You can see here catching. So we've picked up all the grass. Okay, there's nothing left on the lawn. Now, the question is, which is going to look better? That or that? Sometimes it comes down to presentation. What's a customer going to be happy with? That, if they've got a swimming pool or something, the children walk on the grass, they drag the grass into the pool. If their feet are wet, they drag the grass inside. Here it's nice and clean. So the decision you have to make is to what you think is best for you and your customers and how you want to go about it. There is no right or wrong answer to this. It's your decision.
Weeds, they're absolutely everywhere. Whether they're in your lawn or in your garden bed at home, there's something that you want to try and get rid of. Our local expert tonight, Des, is going to show you how to go about getting rid of them out of your garden.
In this segment we're going to talk about weeding garden beds. This is probably something that not a lot of franchise owners actually enjoy doing because it can mean some getting down on your hands and knees and doing things the hard way. Now, with weeding, there are three ways that we can weed. We can weed manually, which is obviously what it sounds like, pulling weeds out or getting the shovel or the pitchfork and manually pulling the weeds out. We can also weed chemically, which means using perhaps a glyphosate or an organic solution other than glyphosate, something like Slasher. We can also weed mechanically, which for instance might be putting a brush cutter through a heavily weeded garden bed, or could be putting a rotary hoe through a garden bed, as an extreme example. Weeding, in my view, is something that men in particular aren't very good at. The reason they're not very good at it is that I think they can be a bit lazy and pull the tops off weeds. Now, what happens if you pull the top off a weed and not get the roots out? That weed's not dead and it's coming back. So with weeding, you really have to make sure that you're getting in and under the weed and getting the whole root ball out. I'll take a step back before I discuss that any further. A very important aspect of weeding is talking to your customer about what their expectations are in terms of the process that you undertake and in terms of the outcome that you're going to achieve. For example, they might not like poison, so that discounts chemical treatment of weeds. They might want a really nice finish, which means getting down hands and knees and pulling every single weed out, which is going to be pretty labour intensive. They might not be happy with putting the slasher through it because it's going to look pretty ugly. So that's a really important discussion to have, and it's also going to impact your pricing. Clearly, the more labour intensive it is, the longer it's going to take, the more it's going to cost. And you've got green waste to take away, adds to the cost. If it's chemical poisoning, then really all we're doing here is mixing up our glyphosate or our slasher, applying all our PPE, and walking around and carefully poisoning the weeds, which is very time efficient, and you've only really got a cost of chemical as well as your labour. So the process you undertake is going to really impact the price and the outcome. Okay, we're going to have a look at some manual weeding now. So I've got an instrument that's appropriate for weeding, gets underneath the roots. We call it a donger. So under the roots we go and up we come. So what we're going to do now is just continue on through here and remove these weeds. Some weeds will come out, when you've got moist soil, they'll come out very, very easily. If you've got drier conditions like summer, these weeds will be stuck like they're stuck in cement. Some weeds are a lot harder to remove than others. For example, tap-rooted weeds that go right down need a lot more digging. You can have, a grass can be a weed. Here we go, there's an example. We've got couch grass, it's couch lawn. We've got couch grass growing into the garden bed. Very invasive, very hard to remove. It's got runners that head under the ground, and to get those runners out, you've got to get them all out, or that's coming back. So, chemical treatment for couch in a garden bed, absolutely appropriate, making absolutely sure at no time does your chemical touch any of the foliage of the plants and shrubs nearby. Now with chemical treatment, and I've got here some glyphosate, I would not poison today, it's a bit breezy. Must be careful never to spray when it's windy or when it's going to rain. 24 hours either side, and you won't get a good outcome. You can increase the kill rate, the speed of kill with glyphosate by adding what is called a surfactant. A surfactant helps the chemical, the glyphosate, to adhere to the surface of the weed. So it's sticky, it adds to the stickiness of the chemical. So you'll get a much faster kill rate using a good quality surfactant.
That's all we have time for tonight on The Mow Show, a show about mowing and gardening. Don't forget to follow us on the links that are appearing on the screen right now, or if you'd like to speak to a local expert, call us on 131 546 or go to the website jimsmowing.com.au. Thanks for watching.